All right, folks, just finished a hell of a podcast with Juan O Savin on 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏.tv, going through all the minutia and details of this. But here we are in the apex of the boomerang. Comey has been indicted. We all know this, but did Comey make a deal? Are other things transpiring right now? Juan, the line in the sand has been drawn. You said that on the last podcast. What do we need to know here? What does my audience need to know here? Where are we in this fight right now?
Well, it is a line in the sand moment. Everybody's being read in. One time, there's some people that will be out. Uh, Part of the problem, Nino, and I don't, I went into more detail in the show just a moment ago that's on the backside, is the British alignment of so many people. And We're not going to put up with that anymore. That's why Trump even went over and met with the Brits the other day. And there's a lot of interesting aspects to that, including while he's inspecting the troops, Charles is like, in another county.
Yeah,
He's
he
so
was
far
walking.
behind
I
him.
mean, he was walking ahead of Charles. That's a big no-no, isn't it? Or does that matter?
Yeah, well, and of course, he stepped in front of the Queen when he was there. Uh, we're having some challenges on whose authority is going to be in play here. We are the big dog. We are the ones that are in the command position. In fact, one of the interesting things about this meeting in Virginia tomorrow, if you look at the order that was sent out calling the generals and flag officers to this meeting in Virginia, the very last portion of it is that they are to close off and stop any liaisons, any joint operations with British troops or forces at military reservations. That includes behind the scenes stuff that's going on in the intelligence community with shared intelligence operations. That's not known
So,
publicly.
this declaration of authority and summons, what I'm showing here to the audience, this is the line in the sand.
Well, it uh, denominates, enumerates that line in the sand. Now everybody shows up for this meeting, and which President Trump is called for through Hegseth, and who he will be speaking to the generals and flag officers at this meeting, which is pretty much everybody. Only a handful, literally, of generals and flag officers have remained at their command posts, and everybody else called in for this meeting. And there's, nobody is going to be able to say, I didn't hear it the same way you did. Nobody told me that. I wasn't sure what they meant by this or that or something else. They will all have heard exactly the same thing in a meeting where they were all present. There's a certain mutual understanding between command officers at this level when they interact, and there will be no ambiguity about what's expected of them, how they're to proceed, etc. And that's a really important thing.
So, Juanito, can you hear me? You kind of broke up a little bit.
Yep, I'm here.
Okay. So obviously he's drawing the line in the line in the sand. Something big's coming as we go into Red October. Can you talk on that a little bit, and can you talk about the deal that maybe a deal was made with James Comey?
Well, I mean, let me qualify it slightly. There's an understanding. Comey had to pick a tack moving forward. And that tack essentially implicates as being behind his decisions. And so he's going to live and die on that beach. The idea that authority as president allowed him to make certain directives, orders, things to do, that all is going to come back. So he's not cooperating in the sense that you would normally attribute to a deal. He's just taking a certain tack. Okay, that's your position. Great. Brennan said publicly on MSNBC yesterday that he'd had his lawyers and himself, and he's reviewed all of his actions over this whole time and decided he did nothing wrong. Nothing, I'm telling you, nothing wrong in all of his actions. Well, part of his fallback position is that authorize and approve those actions. All roads lead. And so President Trump has been very direct. That is behind everything that was done in this collusion to throw a fraud on the American people, that President Trump was in collusion on and working on the behalf of Putin. 5. And
so there's no coincidence here. There's
yeah,
no coincidence here that Comey's been indicted and that Trump is moving troops into Portland, into Chicago, D.C. This is all strategy, correct?
Well, for example, as I've said numerous times, you got certain governors and mayors that are resisting Trump's authority to do this. In fact, Portland yesterday on Sunday initiated a lawsuit against President Trump for his legal right to bring troops into Portland. But this is a federal facility. ICE does a federal operation, and those personnel who are federal employees are at risk based on what Antifa has been doing, both direct intimidation and physical harm. And so the president has every right in the world to bring those troops in to protect that facility. And similar other federal offices where it could go to. And so Oregon's going to lose that. They might win it in some local judge. At the end of the day, they're going to get their asses kicked hard. But let me add one thing, Nino. You've heard about Portland. A number of police stations around the country. I'll use Chicago as an example. We have officers talking about this who are pro-Trump people. They've been directed by command, for example, at police stations in Chicago, that if ICE shows up at the police station, no ICE officer can use a restroom. They can't make a copy on the copy machine. They have no
they can't wear masks. They can't protect their identity either, correct?
Right. All sorts of things. So here they are doing these very serious operations, taking out gang members that are heavily armed and here to do all sorts of mischief, who are aligned, by the way, in many cases with terrorist organizations like Antifa. And yet you're not getting support from the city or state policing agencies in Illinois for what ICE is doing. Similar in Portland, the governor, the mayor, they direct their police. This is what you're going to do. This is how you're going to operate. This is, don't let them even use a restroom. Well, if I was the ICE guys, I'd say, okay, well, we're just going to crap on the floor right there. Okay, I'm going to pee on that wall right there. That's the police chief's door. Oh, you want to pee on the door with me? Yeah. Okay. In fact, here, have another swig of water before we do it. That's my attitude with those jerks. They're trying to impede what the president is doing. And I go back to this meeting in Virginia. You think it's just a person here or there? No, there is deeply embedded personnel within the military, just like there is within these other locations, who will do everything to stop Trump because he's not their commander-in-chief. He's not their president.
Which is why he's having this meeting with Hegseth and the generals and admirals to figure out who's who and drawing the line in the sand, right?
Yeah. So let him.
So he's drawing the line in the sense that you're either on this side or you're not. What is he? What are they going to raise their hand and say, I can't do this anymore? Does he dismiss him right then and there? How does this work, Juanito? How does this meeting How does this meeting occur? Or
I guess we'll all have to watch. I think we all just have to watch. I think that you're looking at someone. Trump is a he's like the master of ceremonies, and he actually does enjoy the drama. He, uh, you know, he has an entertainer's quality to him. Does that mean that he shouldn't do it in these kinds of situations? The reality is he has great uh, comedic timing. He also has great senses of an audience. He loves to host people at his hotels and golf courses and things like that. He's a great host. Um, so I would be expecting for something this serious that there will be tremendous pomp and circumstance, that there will be a certain formality. Visualize in your mind the opening scene to the movie Patton. And he is going to give one heck of a speech. It's going to be stunning, and it's going to be clear, crisp, and to the point. And there'll be lots of little clues, just like in the document that you see there. Um, it says for America. Okay. One President, Commander in Chief uh, of America, and says for America. Read it closely and then understand there's a lot of little nuance within the legalese that people will be talking about for a very long time. He's giving you clues of where he's going and why, and you have to suss it out. People have to talk about it. Why not make it more instantly plain? Let me use this example. Christ oftentimes would tell a parable with a huge crowd of people, Sadducees and Pharisees, people from the temple that were just seeking to take him down at every instant. Any way they could, the demons, the devil himself, all present. And then he'd be aside somewhere else, and the apostles would come to him. Well, we didn't understand. Please explain this to us. And then he'd take time to explain something more deeply. Okay, there's some sifting of the information that has to occur here for the American people, and if we take the time and go through that, it's not wasted. We're at one of the most crucial moments in American history, and you're front row witnesses to all of this. And Red October. Take a deep breath. It's going to be epic.
Wow. Here we go. Going into Red October, folks. This is going to be one for the books. I like the word now. Every October is Red October, but I think this one's going to be Rocktober, baby. Rocktober.
Yeah, I love
All
that.
right.
I love
Juanito, I appreciate you coming on. Folks, go to ninoscorner.tv. So much there. And go to thejennifermack.com, thejennifermack.com. Get yourself all kinds of stuff he's got there.
Well, and by the way, the silver, look at what's going on with silver. Oh my gosh. If you're not paying attention, you're really seeing a breakout. In fact, I haven't moved my prices. I'm gonna have to do that probably before the end of the day. So if anybody gets in there before I do it, you're a genius. But and I have it over at allpatriots.gumroad.com, and then Jennifer's the jennifermack.com. She's got a package over at her site that is pretty.
She's always got awesome stuff, man.
Yeah,
I have a lot of the stuff.
She's got a 3-point package that she asked me to do it, and I said, yeah, okay. But anyway, this is going to be one of those things where, Nino, we're not going to want to let too much hair grow on this thing. You're going to need to come back as this develops over the next 48
where
hours.
We are in the and so the video, the podcast is up. It's fire, folks. The 200 generals, the apex of the Boomerang, where we're at in the operation. It's all there. ninoscorner.tv. This will go up right away. All right, Juanito, thank you.
All right, bro. All right.